Hey, what's going on? It's Andrew with the Eh-Soteric Archives. I'm here with my buddy Mike.
Hello.
And back for another episode. It's been a good little roll we've been on here, so I'm excited to do another one.
Yeah, we've got quite a few episodes in the bank now.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Yeah, good for us.
Yeah. It went a lot faster than we anticipated, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know. It's actually, the engagement's been kind of surprising too, if I'm being honest. Like, you put this stuff out and you don't think really anyone's gonna listen. You're just like, putting it out to put it out. And we've had lots of new followers this past couple weeks and lots of listens and a couple comments and a nice 5-star review from someone. So,
yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
We're shout out to you, whoever that was.
Yeah. We're doing it. We're doing it.
We are.
Yeah.
Interesting topic this week.
Yeah, no guest, just a bro down, and we'll this one was kind of your doing. I not a topic I'm super familiar with, but I had fun researching. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of lean on you a bit for the dates and names and all that stuff, which I feel like I do anyways most of the time. But
dates and name, although they are important, they're not. I think for this one too, it's the overall idea.
Yeah.
So dates and names are important, but I think it's just the idea of what this could mean.
For sure. So yeah, take it away. Do your thing.
So yeah, this started with me telling you about the Wawa Rune Stone that was found in 2018, and we were going to do a mishmash of a couple little stories and that we could come up with, and then it morphed into Ocean Falls, that episode, right? And
for sure.
And looking at the Wawa Rune Stone, which I had no idea existed, you start finding all these other things, like when you know how it is, you start researching something, you see all these other little rabbit holes to go down to, and it's morphed into today's episode, which is the Wawa Rune Stone, and analyzing the idea, or looking at the idea, that Vinland, named in the sagas, could be the Great Lakes area of Ontario, Michigan, but more on the Canadian side.
Yeah, there's a lot of hits. There's a lot of evidence that kind of points towards that. And I guess the whole Vinland thing, like, it was, the way it's described is more of an idea than a place on a map anyways, so there could have been more than one.
100%. Yeah.
But the geographically, and a lot of evidence of things that have been kind of dug up there and stuff seem to point that way. So yeah.
So the Wawa Rune Stone, which is where it kind of begins, it was found in 2018. A tree fell over just outside of Wawa, thus the name, on a private property. So it's not even released really where it is. It's out of respect for the people who own the property. Tree falls down and the Canadian shield's exposed, and they see this runic writing. Not immediately, but shortly thereafter, they get some archaeologists to take a look at it from around Ontario, and a specialist in runic writing from Scandinavia, whose names escape me at the moment. They determine that it's Elder Futhark writing, which is from the 2nd century to, I believe, the 800th century AD. That's the style it's done in. But it's the Lord's Prayer, and it's a version of the Lord's Prayer from 1611. Very puzzling. It's an odd, and it's still, very shortly, we're getting into it right now, but they still don't fully know. They don't know who did it. But they started guessing and taking hints, but they still don't know exactly why it's there or who put it there. Quite large. It would take a bit of time. It's not like you're spray painting like Jim was here on the side of a building. It would take time. You're not just marking that you were there. So yeah, it's an interesting find. What they figured so far from it is that the consensus, I guess, academic consensus at the moment, is that it was a Scandinavian employee of the HBC in the 1800s. For some reason, they don't, even though it's a version of the Lord's Prayer from the 1611, I believe, is the version they say that was on there. Believe that it was someone from the 1800s because it was starting to get romanticized again, the Viking lore and
right.
Yeah. And it was based solely on just the way the type of runic inscription, this elder Futhark
The
is
words
what it's called.
Are brutal to pronounce.
Yeah, they are. It was a style of that I believe as well in the 1600s or 1700s, and they tried to bring it together with with Scandinavian common tongue, whether I think it was Swedish. And so they changed the runes a little bit and they say that's the style that was used. Yeah, it's interesting. They don't know why it's there. They don't know how it got there. No one's tracked down or figured out what employee it could be. It's odd. I think it's odd.
Did they remove it from the property or it's still there?
It's still there.
Huh.
Still there. And if you look online and Google it, there are pictures.
Yeah.
You can find pictures of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that sort of brings into question too, is it's with, and this is sort of a common theme in this Vinland being in Canada kind of thing, is that like a lot of this stuff ends up being disputed, just basically not that it's authentic, because it's authenticated in the sense that it's like, okay, this is runic script.
Yeah.
And it's been authenticated that it's like, okay, it's actually etched in there. It exists, but how did it get there?
Yeah.
And I think with the other discoveries too, we kind of see the same pattern where it's like, well, yeah, it is what they're saying it is, but how it got there, that's not really how it got there.
Yeah, they're disputing little facts and then smaller facts or finding minute details, and that's what it hinges on versus the fact that it's there. And
yeah,
exactly. And so that learning about the Wawa Rune Stone led me to the Beardmore Relics, which I'd never heard of either.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they were found in 1930. And that was a full shield, or sorry, not a full shield, a part of a shield, a helmet, a sword.
Yeah.
And it was found just east of Beardmore by a CN Rail employee who was, I believe, digging for a trench or something along those lines, or digging for the railway.
Yeah.
And he claimed to have found it there and held on to it for 5 years. And he was from Port Arthur, which is Thunder Bay now. And that's where he lived, and he had it there, and apparently would show anyone who asked, was very proud of what he found. And in 1935, after a few visits, and they authenticated that it was from the 9th century. So they didn't dispute what it was. They said it was real and it was from the 9th century and fit Norse materials or how they would build or create those things or make those things. But they said that he planted them there. So that wasn't right away. The museum bought them. They would put them up as a display.
Yeah.
Royal Ontario Museum put them up as a display. And I think 20 years later, it was in 1956, his son came and recanted and said that his dad had planted them, had salted them. And
see, and that's the part that I don't buy that. I understand that people fake discoveries and stuff, but it's like, okay, so in the early 30s, how would this guy have because again, they were authenticated. These were a Viking sword, a Viking shield, helmet, whatever, from the people that he said they were from. And it's not like you can go on the black market or you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to go on eBay and just buy it.
And he wasn't they squared that circle by saying that he found them in a house that he'd lived in previous, like an owner had left them there. And because Port Arthur had a large Scandinavian population, they also alluded to the fact that they could track the movement of it. Like it was someone brought it there.
Yeah.
But they don't identify who it is. They don't say anything about it. And the book that we'll bring up later by James Curran, the Here's Vinland book.
Yeah.
He written in the 30s. He had a personal relationship with this James Dodd fellow who found the Beardmore relics.
Yeah.
And he doesn't believe at all that he was, I realize I'm taking his, opinion as fact, but
Yeah.
just from reading, he doesn't believe that the guy was lying. He doesn't, at no point did he have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it seems like they just kind of waited till he died and then said, oh yeah, it didn't happen. And then a couple years later is when they found Lonzo Meadows.
Yeah. Well, but we see, we see during that time from like the 30s into the 50s, like, you cross into the World War II era and post World War II era where there's so much evidence of stifling and censoring like previous old world knowledge, right? Like that you look at like the World Fair stuff and you look at all that and it's like the narrative of how humanity existed and got to where we got to was sort of like cut off and with the Rockefeller education system and all that, sort of just redirecting the narrative to this full-on European colonial, no, this is the way it is.
I think that's how in the beginning too, when Europeans first made contact, a lot of what was released as knowledge was kept secret. And then in the early 1920s and before then, there was almost a resurgence again of truth kind of coming out, bits and stories of truth and people writing books. And then you're right, from World War II on, those books a lot of them are not even talked about. Same in newspaper articles, like we'll get into, there's lots of newspaper articles about this, talking about these finds, and you try to find them now and it's next to impossible, or they're pushed off as fantasy.
Well, yeah, it's sort of, it's argued away as like people from that time were just gullible. They were just gullible and, didn't understand science and didn't understand, how to take things literally and whatever. Right. So it's like, it's the same people that talk about like the stories in the Bible and in like Greek mythology and stuff. And they're just allegories, or they're just comparative stories, like written in a cryptic kind of way, because they were prosecuted, whatever the story happens to be. But it's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot more stories of giants and dragons and this sort of like otherworldly stuff that kind of all ties together. Why I like if everyone knows these stories and everyone's telling the same stories, then why wouldn't they just, why does it need to be cryptic? I think there's a good chance that no, this is the way it was.
Yeah.
And I guess this gets into the whole Vinland book and how they describe like the journey out west, because that's, what was it, Helland or Helluland, right? Which is described basically as like the new world and like this forested, lush kind of.
That was Markland. So there's Helluland on, it's okay. So they leave in the sagas from Greenland. Some of the sagas there has them leaving from Greenland and some has them leaving from Iceland.
Yeah.
And going in a direction which the James Curran in that book believes was west. But they pass Helluland first, which is the land of flat stones, and then they reach Markland, which is the wooded land.
Right. Okay.
And then Vinland after that. And it's like a procession.
Yeah.
They stop at each place and set up and kind of keep going. And Vinland they found recently, or sorry, not Vinland, Helluland they found recently is actually Baffin Island. Like, they believe that that's now the leading theory, that is Baffin Island. And if you look on a map, Greenland is east of Baffin Island. If they would go west, they would go to Baffin Island, and it would be just north of the Hudson Strait. And the next place they would go to or see, if they kept going in that direction, would be Hudson Bay or Markland. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, the book's interesting. It's a
So his defense of the Beardmore discovery and stuff is basically just that it is using that Vinland, Helluland, whatever model as being where you just said it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess I was just going to mention a few other artifacts. but we can get into the book.
No, let's jump in.
So just a few other artifacts to kind of set the table for at least my mindset going into this is, it was the Wawa Rune Stone, and then the Beardmore artifacts, and then you learn about the Kensington Rune Stone, which isn't in Canada, but it's fairly well known, and that was documented. It's known as a hoax as well. They think found the same way. It was found buried and found when a tree fell over, the exact same as the Wawa Rune Stone. That one was a little, I don't know what I fully believe because I don't know enough about runic scripture to know there's little variances in it. And they said because of that, it was done by someone not from that time. Okay. And the Kensington Rune Stone claimed that it was supposedly written or etched in 1362 and talks about a voyage to Vinland where they met and lost a lot. They met some people and then lost a lot of people. That's essentially what it's about. But it's been disputed, and I think kind of people don't fully believe it. There's mention as well as a few other runes that were found in the 1700s that went to Jesuit priests, but found by a French explorer whose name is escaping me, just past where the Kensington Rune Stones are found. And they got sent to Jesuit priests in Montreal who, in written letters, because they keep documents of that, identified it as Tatars, not Tartarian, but Tatar writing. Okay. Because apparently it's similar to runic writing. So there's no one, and I haven't seen them. I'm not an expert, right? We're spitballing here and talking about the fact that maybe everything's not what we think it is or whatever, right? So I went to the Jesuit priests. They said it was that. Could be runic. There's another theory, which I learned about yesterday. There's so many conspiracy theories. With the Kensington Rune Stone, that there's an X on it that's curved slightly. They take it as an A, I believe is my understanding in the Rune Stone, but there's a guy who says that it's an X for the Knights Templar because he believes that in 1362, the people coming over were Vikings and Knights Templar, or a mix of both, or they were the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that's who left the Rune Stone. Yeah. Which is also another kind of crazy thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of theories that kind of play into that too, right? Like we were discussing before how, you hear stories when the early European settlers first came, the indigenous people weren't necessarily like put off by them, right? Like they approached the ships. They didn't like turn away or attack or whatever. And it got me thinking where it's like, well, it's probably because they've seen white people before, right? They sort of, if the Vikings had come down from the other side, they came from the north, but there would have been stories that passed of like people that came in ships and people that, weren't dark skinned and whatever. So it's really interesting. Also because the sagas, which I wasn't aware of, were essentially written through a Christian lens, because by the time this oral history made it into written history, Christianity had already sort of taken over. Mm-hmm. And like, as far as like the Icelandic people go, like that, they had no choice but to convert to Christianity from paganism because they were about to be left out of the trade route. So they really didn't have a choice. All the other pagan countries had sort of capitulated already. Mm-hmm. And so, and when that happens, obviously there's the people keep their culture and stuff, but when you're not allowed to practice it as like an active social structure, it breaks down into just being fantasy, and it sort of gets played off as this like Disney kind of thing, right? So, and they, like I was saying, the Romans did it to the Greeks, where it's like, you think of Greek mythology as like that ran their civilization and was more than just a Disney movie. Mm-hmm. And I think
it's a serious belief.
Exactly. And I think it's the same thing with these people, where it's like, if they would have come here eventually, they would have faced that persecution from the Christian sect and the king and all that stuff here as well. Mm-hmm. Very similar to how the indigenous people did eventually, Mm-hmm. if you really want to dive down a rabbit hole, like you could look at runic scripture and like hieroglyphs and stuff, and they're pretty similar.
Yep.
A lot of indigenous beliefs, they like the tree of life stuff, which is effectively what the pagans believe. It's this big ash tree that connects heaven and hell and this realm.
A lot of oneness too with the being connected to the environment year round. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. So I think it's there's definitely an argument to be made for like this Beardmore hoax and for the other hoax.
Okay, yeah, there's many rune stones found. There's a lot found too along the Mississippi.
Yeah.
When you look into it, there's not too many found, at least thus far in Canada, but a lot along the Mississippi, and they don't know exact in Missouri rivers because one of the theories is that they made it all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
In that book, yeah, the James Curran book.
So yeah, it would have rewritten colonial history entirely,
100%,
right, and removed a lot of the power, the cultural power, away from the Europeans.
And speaking about the church, there are stories. I don't know how true they are, but whispers or conspiracy theories, for lack of a better term, about the Pope making a deal with Christopher Columbus. Spanish Pope Christopher Columbus sails for Spain. They make a deal. Whatever you find, you got there first. And essentially erase any history known before that time. Those same conspiracy theories believe that Christopher Columbus sailed with the knowledge of what was there in Vinland and all that, and that's one of the reasons he went further south. Knew what he'd be battling if he went further north, but who knows?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it really is like a story of just domination. Like it's just like, yeah, whoever's idea can be embedded in the culture strongest wins. I read too, it was kind of sold to the pagans as this, because so a lot of the pagan beliefs and this Norse mythology is like very revenge based. So and so kills your brother, you have to kill his brother, tit for tat kind of thing.
Eye for an eye.
Yeah.
Very Old Testament.
Well, exactly. It's very Old Testament. It's very just like nature driven, right? Like it's not that revenge exists a ton in nature, but the brutality of like just succession and all that, right? Like it's existed in, and it obviously still exists in like the Christian belief system as well. It's just a little more hidden, and it's at the top when we don't know about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of held within bloodlines. But so it was sort of sold, the conversion to Christianity for the pagans was sort of sold to them as this like, I mean, obviously it was sold to the higher ups as like, look, you want to trade, you want to make money, this is the only way to do it. It was sold to the peasants, the civilians, as this like, look, this is gonna like all these like hundreds of years of wars and all these like this infighting and these, you know, just like generational kind of spats that happened. It's like this is gonna get rid of that, and we can live in peace. You can live in peace just like they do, you know. It's you know, forgiveness. It's all about forgiveness and complacency.
And let us take care of everything for you. What could go wrong if you let the authorities take care of you?
Well, and then the other thing with it too is it's a separation of their connection to divine. It's like, well, you know, you let the priests and the kings and whatever, they deal with God and these entities, and you just worry about your family and your life. And it was like, it's a simplified way of living, but it's sort of a lobotomized way of living at the end of the day, because it's removing these people from, like, ritual was baked into their culture. Like they were all doing rune magic. They were all doing
with freedom to do it based on how they felt as well, which I think is also it wasn't an overly controlling belief system, is my understanding anyway. That they could pray to what gods they wanted to pray to for whatever it was that they needed at that time, right? So different people would pray to different gods.
Yeah, the farmers had their set of gods, and same thing. Like educators had, you know, they were the more like prophetic ones, and they prayed to the gods of wisdom and this and that, and like all their runes were specific to each thing, you know. And it's like, if you look at it as like they almost had this technology, magic, but that a form of technology, right? They had this and it was removed from them. And like every other time that happens in history, it's not like they're like, oh, well, Christianity's better than these pagan beliefs, get rid of all these pagan rituals and whatever. It's like, well, no, we're going to take what we like from your culture. We're going to rebrand it into ours. And you can still do it, but you have to like, whatever, wear this cross when you do it. You're not, it's really messed up how
It really is. Yeah.
just continually happens throughout history, and every culture has this example of it. And I think it's, when it gets rewritten, like how it is as they're finding these relics and stuff, like it's a massive threat to their control system.
It is. I do like when you read about it though, seeing how they still found a way to fit the old ways in with Christianity. I don't believe, like it seems anyway, that not everyone fully was 100% just like they still believed kind of in both worlds somehow.
The Catholic priests in Iceland today and stuff, they still do like the equinox ceremonies and stuff like that, winter and summer equinox and all that. So it's still rooted in their pagan beliefs, and they're all kind of aware of like, this was taken from us, so we just sort of like meld it in. But that like Christian hold on these countries is still there.
Yeah. And I'm sure they probably practice those, like the solstice, although those things and the equinox, because of a lot of them still rely on farming and that, you know what I mean, at that time. So they have to, even if Christianity is involved, it doesn't mean they can ignore that the seasons change. And on this day we do this, and on that day we do that. Like they follow the season still.
Totally.
Despite that. Yeah. Cool topic.
So. Yeah. No, it's neat, man. There's a lot to go over, and it's like
so there is more evidence. As I kept looking, the amount of copper finds around the Great Lakes area, but especially a lot of it's kind of hard to find now when you look into older books or older newspaper articles, like giant copper hooks buried 30 feet down with 28 feet of clay over top. Things like that found around the Lake Superior area, like northern Lake Superior, and a lot of copper found in Ontario. And as a lot of people know, and I've learned recently, I didn't fully know. And when I took history in high school and a bit of it in university, I had no idea about the copper mines in and around Lake Superior, which is where a lot of this copper came from.
Yeah.
So there's some beliefs that it's from the ancestors of the First Nations people that are there now, that it was them who did it.
Yeah.
In the 30s, when that book was written, his belief was that, and he had a lot of pictures on it, and he had experts analyze it just to see what style it was. And a lot of it was done in a European style. So his belief was that it was done before the First Nations people that were there when first contact was made. But that was also based on the fact they didn't have any tools at the time to do it. That's not to say that they didn't or someone before them didn't.
Yeah.
But the coppers, they're huge. And they found chunks, like there's stories of French explorers finding 4 to 10 foot chunks like around of just copper sitting there, pure copper.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest places. There's a peninsula that juts out from northern Michigan into Lake Superior. And then there's an island just off the coast of Thunder Bay called Isle Royale.
Okay.
That is another one where there's a huge copper mine. It's part of the US though, and it's only like 10, not even 10 clicks from, when you look at it on a map, it looks like it should be part of Canada, but it's purposely been included as part of the US. And it's because in the early 1800s, the US found copper there, kicked everyone out, and not stripped it, but like, took a lot.
Yeah.
Something interesting for you and anyone who's watching any of our other episodes, there's only one city on this Isle Royale, and it's called Wendigo.
No way.
Yeah. And there's a story about a Wendigo type entity that protects that island from.
Yeah.
And when first contact was made, I hate saying first contact because I don't believe that. When Europeans came over in the 1500s and 1600s and spoke with the First Nations people there, they talked about not going to that island, how it was off limits to them and to their, interesting.
Yeah.
And copper, they didn't use copper as for anything other than ornamental things. They didn't use it to make bronze. They didn't use it for copper axes or copper hooks. So when they find these copper artifacts and they're dated to before them, it's where do they come from?
Yeah. Well, didn't the Vikings use copper coins? Like, because I know there's a period in history where they would trade with like so the Norwegian king was using European money, like, and he stopped accepting, I believe it was the copper coins from the Vikings, and that's sort of what initiated the first
I didn't know
conversion. It was basically like, your money's no good here.
You have to convert.
You have to convert, and then we'll allow you access to this new currency.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the Icelandic people, I believe.
Where were they getting the copper from?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a nice spot right there, pretty close.
Yeah.
And it was found all the way down. So it was Poverty Point, which is like in Louisiana, and mounds down there. And in Florida, they find copper they can trace it because of how pure it is. It's like 99.9% pure.
Huh.
And they can trace the copper to Lake Superior. So there was, whether it was the Vikings or whoever it was, there was definitely a trade route from northern Lake Superior down to the Mississippi.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the Gulf Poverty Point is like the Gulf of Mississippi, I believe. Pretty sure.
So I wanted to ask, because I didn't do, and you're better at pronouncing French words than I am. What was this place?
Lonceau Meadows.
Lonceau Meadows. Because this was discovered and authenticated after. So just to back up, like the Beardmore hoax was basically called out as a hoax in the 50s. And then like a few years later, they discovered this.
4 years.
4 years later, they discover this that kind of backs up what Dodd was saying.
And it backs up. So James Curran, who writes the book, because his belief is, when he wrote the book in 1939, that Vikings Vinland was Great Lakes area, and the Vikings, everyone was like, that's nuts. Not everyone, but right. There's no proof of it. And then they did find Lonceau Meadows, which proves that there was a Viking, and they don't think it was a settlement. They think Lonceau Meadows was more of a like a stop. So it was a stop on their way somewhere. Yeah. They found lots of, or a seasonal place maybe. It wasn't like a city, a place they stayed forever. They found a lot of evidence of, I'm not trying to be sexist, but things that females would have used in that culture. So it was obvious it wasn't just explorers. It was, they were there for a while. They found lots of elements of animals being there. And they found this one nut, it's called a butternut, they found it there, but doesn't grow there, has never grown there, only grows, the furthest south it grows is basically the Great Lakes and down. So it grows all the way down into the US. So it could have been from there as well. They believe it's from New Brunswick, but it could have been from anywhere. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And Lonceau Meadows proved that they were there somewhere.
Yeah. They still dated it as like way later than like 1000 AD or whatever.
No, I think they believe
they went that far back.
I believe but they don't. They go back and forth whether it was Leif Erikson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not Eric the Red, but his son. Yeah. Whether it was him or not, they're not too sure. They don't know. They just know that it was Viking. Viking.
And then that didn't dig up anything with the Beardmore stuff again. No one just...
No. And it was found by Norwegian scientists too, not Canadian or British, because I guess it was British territory until just before then too, right? It would have been. 49 is when it became Canada.
Yeah.
So it was found by Norwegian scientists or archaeologists. And they were the ones who found it. They also, I've learned recently that apparently there are mounds in Prince Edward County. Not apparently, there are mounds in Prince Edward County, over 100 of them. And the theory for a long time about them is they could have been Viking. They don't 100% know. They don't fit in with a lot of the other burial or other mounds, I guess. There were ones by close to marshy areas, and they would build a mound and cut a hole in it, let it fill with water, and then they would heat up that space, either bathe in or...
Oh, okay.
And that is something that's more consistent with Celtic and and Viking people versus, anyway, something else to think about. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
all these things I didn't know existed, or
yeah. Well, yeah. And it's even just, so there's like with the European ties, like a lot of the early Norse, whatever, the Viking kings and stuff that were making their way through, they're like concubines and they're like slaves, essentially. A lot of them were Irish. A lot of them were Europeans. So like that culture had, it's just interesting that it kind of made its way over probably before then. A lot of the actual writing that was done, the early writings, were done by these European slaves that were like transcribing and stuff for these Viking kings and whatever,
being like a translator, interpreter.
So it's also interesting because it's like they would have had this like early Christian lens even without converting, because of who was writing it
and just being aware of it. When as they conquered England too, they would encounter monks and things like that. Right? If you believe the story, because some of the stories believe that the first people in Iceland were actually Irish monks trying to get away from the Vikings.
Okay.
And then they were, but I don't know what to believe, just in stories I've read that when the first Vikings arrived, there were already people there and they were Irish monks. Left to get away from them, and then oh look, here we are again.
Yeah.
So they would have been exposed to Christianity for a long time before they were ordered to convert to it. And probably understand bits of it, right? To assume that they were Neanderthal or just that they believed in spiritual things more so than our society does now.
100%.
So, yeah. You would think they would be interested in the story of Christianity. Yeah. So continuing, there's all this evidence. There's more evidence on the south shore of Lake Ontario. They found several copper ingots and not ingots, copper buttons and rivets, and another hook. They found a brass axe in Brantford, Ontario, which you can find lots of articles about if it's like before 1930. Anything after that, it's like it never existed. And I can't find out if it was proven to be a hoax or what, but it was found, and that it's mentioned a lot in that book as well, the Here's Vinland book. So all those things aside, just looking at the sagas. So if you like, there's that evidence that there's been Vikings somewhere in that area, right? And they say that they were at Launceston Meadows, because that's what we were talking about. They went to New Brunswick and then just went back to Launceston Meadows, and that was kind of you don't think they would continue going down the St. Lawrence?
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
it's in their blood. It's in their to continue, right? They're people who believed in fate and meeting your fate head on, and if their fate is to explore and to find new land, which is what all of those,
then it's like their duty to do so. Yeah,
and they're not gonna see an area they can keep going down and turn around and come back, right? So where is this Vinland? Because the Launceston Meadows, they've proven that's not Vinland. Like even when it was found, because they've been looking for Vinland for a while. Most people posit that it's southern U.S., like could be down Georgia way, which does make sense if you look where Launceston Meadows is. But in the book, the James Curran book, he uses evidence from the sagas to prove that it's the Great Lakes. And I find that, to me, the most interesting part. We've went over a few of them. When you were mentioning before about when they first met the white man, they acted almost as if they'd known them before. Like the first names, the Cree from Hudson Bay area, this is from the book, so if I'm wrong, I apologize, but just from what I read, their name for when French explorers first came to Ontario, Northern Ontario, and met the First Nations there, they already had a name for them, for white people, and it translated as the men who come in wooden boats.
Yeah, it's pretty specific.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that there's another one, there's lore it's obviously lore, no one knows for sure, but there is lore and stories if you look at the written record of people who met different native bands who maybe were a bit lighter skinned or fairer I guess for lack of a better term. So that adds a little speculation, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And it's in areas that they would think. But the biggest thing is how in the saga it's described, he looks at, there's a gap that's a very hard area to traverse that's west of Greenland, and he believes that's the Hudson Strait. Helluland's just north of there, comes into Hudson Bay, and then they just go down the rivers through there. And to me, it's a plausible theory. He also mentions, though, in the book that they had possibly had knowledge of this beforehand. So that's, I think you and I discussed this before. Did this happen thousands of years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because a lot of the relics are buried really deep down. Did it happen thousands and thousands of years ago?
Yeah. I mean, well, there's no, and like we discussed there being, because more than one of these places too, right? Because they're just describing it as as a certain type of land that they're able to find and settle at. So was there more than one? And is the chronological order of where they actually landed and established their rule, like maybe that was just off,
So how he describes Hudson Bay too, and James Bay, not Hudson Bay, when he describes where Leif Erikson lands to go up to shore to Markland, he talks about like an enormous length of space where the tide goes in and out, which describes James Bay perfectly. That was always the issue with Lonsdale Meadows. There's nowhere on that side that fit the description of Markland, Helluland, or Vinland totally.
Yeah.
They knew that they were there, but there was nowhere to fit that description. Hudson, the entrance into Hudson Bay fits it's a Gugaman Gap. I'm going to butcher it, but the name of that place, because it has high sheer cliffs and it has crazy currents and waves going back and forth, describes it perfectly. Describes the entrance into Markland perfectly. They, if anyone, are the only ones who would have the boats to go up and down those rivers. Like they had smaller boats, which was detrimental if you were in a big sea at times, but would allow them to get inland much farther.
For sure.
They did that in England. They did that in France. And the rivers in Northern Ontario where you can get anywhere. That's how everyone got around for hundreds of years, right?
Well, and their boats were
tens of thousands of years.
Their boats were also built to traverse like icy waters. Like they were built for northern seas, right? And that the way they described that passage, which would be the Hudson's Bay passage, is that what you said?
Yeah, so there's the Hudson Strait, and then he would curl down into Hudson Bay, and then James Bay would be at the bottom of it.
Yeah, so that whole area up there, I think, you can only travel by boat 13 or 14 weeks of the year, which is not a lot of time.
And they mentioned that in the saga as well, that they have to time it for the passage.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of places like that.
No. And when you look at it too, just straight on a map, it just seems odd to me that they would keep going in one direction and then just make this weird decision to go in a completely different direction and then south. It seems more plausible to me that they would just keep continuing to what they thought was the end of the ocean, which would have been to them Hudson Bay. It would have seemed it anyway.
Yeah.
At the opening, it's hard. You can't see across the other side. It would look like the end, you know what I mean?
Sure,
you just follow land down and see where it goes, kind of thing. And that took them to there. So is what this gentleman posits. But did they, like I've said, did they do that to explore on their own, or were they just following old trading routes that they'd known about orally for thousands of years?
Right.
Yeah.
Was it an instance of discovery, or was it just business as usual kind of thing where they're just and dropping stuff along the way?
And then on top of the sagas, there's other things too. Like there was and it's on written accounts because it's hard. There's not a lot of written stuff, right? Until Christianity.
Yeah.
In 1362, that was the Kensington Rune Stone. In the 1300s, around the time of the Kensington Rune Stone, there's this story of a Paul Knutsen who gets sent by the King of Norway to check up on Greenland, goes, and then he never reports back. And Greenland also is right at this time, like Greenland basically disappears. The people there disappear.
Yeah.
So the writer of this book, his belief is that they went to Hudson Bay, possibly, whoever survived. They had a bad winter or two, said we got to bail, and just kept going that way. It would make more sense to me they would go home, but
yeah,
right,
unless they couldn't.
Fair enough. And and I think a lot of people who were sent to Greenland were there because they wanted a new start, and or were not allowed to go back to Norway, right? So that's the whole the Paul Knutson guy gets sent there and then is never heard from again. That's kind of the crux of the Kensington Rune Stone theory, is that that stone was part of that Paul Knutson party looking for the survivors of Greenland. And there's a lot of crazy stuff too. They talk about, like, in that book, when they first land in James Bay, men in skin boats, which would fit in with the Inuit who are up there.
Yeah,
they call them Skraelings as well, and they don't even deal with them. Like they can't deal with them. Like they're not afraid of them, but they recognize they're to be avoided.
Okay,
and that fits with, at the time, that fits with First Nations accounts too. The Cree did not apparently get along too well. Like everyone just avoided that area for that reason, right?
Yeah, it's too hostile.
Yeah, and then the biggest thing about Vinland is it's called Vinland because of Vinland wine. So it's the area of Lonso Meadows. The wild grapes don't grow. The wild grapes that they think they're talking about, that's a thing. Did they mean cranberries? Did they mean real grapes? But none were in the New World. So it would have been these wild vine grapes, which are found in Manitoba, Ontario, and then as you go south, that's the reason for thinking. Another reason to think that it was possibly the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's So I guess it could have been cranberries. It could have been cherries. It could, whatever, right? I guess
it was definitely something they can make wine out of, I believe, is what they've agreed upon.
Some good old Saskatoon berries there. Yeah.
They talk about, there's so many things in that book. You can't get into all of them, but he has a lot of, that gentleman fully believed that Vikings had been here. And although it hasn't been proven that they were exactly where he said they were, they've definitely been around. They've been, like, right, Baffin Island, Lonso Meadows is all around the north part. Why wouldn't they have done everything?
Yeah. I mean, it could even play into some of the, like, giant lore that we have here, right? Like, these guys came over and would have been giants compared to a lot of the people here already, right? Like, so I mean, that could be where that comes from.
There's origin stories of not a lot, but certain different First Nations people in the US and in Canada, where their origin story talks about the giants from the north, the white bearded, blue-eyed giants from the north. So
totally.
Is it something that's been going on forever, or just the last little bit? It's kind of crazy. And I think I told you there was a John Dee, like a weird John Dee connection when we were talking about this earlier. And it's just another little piece of evidence. There was a map maker named Mercator who was known in the I didn't know him, but very well known in the 70s, I believe, like 16th century, late 16th century. And there's documented, he befriended John Dee when John Dee was a young teenager, a late teenager, I think 18, 19. John Dee stayed with him for 3 or 4 years, and then they separated, but they continued to write to each other. Mercator wrote a letter to John Dee talking about the Vikings and Vinland, and this is where you need to go, because I had no idea, because I'm just getting into this John Dee stuff. I know you know more about it than me in the history of it. I had no idea. I realized he was the one talking to the Queen, right, and giving advice. He was actually in charge of some expeditions, not in charge of, but like he decided some expeditions, and his whole thing was about settling the new land and wanted any information he could get. And that was supposedly proof that they'd been there before too. And John Dee did fund and pleaded with Queen Elizabeth to fund Martin Frobisher, who's a fairly well-known explorer. There's a bay named after him out in that area, right in the Arctic, to come to the New World to get gold and bring it back. Went on for a couple of years, and then when they finally started smelting what they thought was gold, there was no gold in it. lost all of his money, and apparently it's one of the things that led to John, because I didn't know that John Dee died penniless and homeless.
Yeah.
And that was that was the step, or the biggest step towards that happening. And he lost from that moment forward, kind of lost his, they didn't trust his voice as much, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the weird John Dee thing.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of weird Canadian connections. I found the other one I found. So when you're looking into Norse mythology, like one of the most famous depictions of it is in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, right? It's all in there like that. It's basically the sagas. There's a lot of like runic like nods and stuff in that. Anyways, this guy, like Tolkien had a kind of a best buddy at the University of Leeds. His name was E.V. Gordon. So this guy was born in BC here. He was born in Salmon Arm in the interior. And he ended up teaching at University of Leeds. And he was into like medieval languages, the Icelandic sagas, heroic poetry. So they bonded over their love of specifically Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And he helped Tolkien like write a lot of the language that's in this. So like the Elven language and stuff like that was actually this guy that helped structure it and stuff, because he had so much knowledge of these old languages and all that stuff. So
and all the elements from Lord of the Rings fit with things that Norse fit.
Yeah,
it's things they believe for sure. Crazy.
Yeah. So he co-authored Sir Gawain and the Green Knight in 1925 with Tolkien. And this is so Gordon handled much of the Middle English textual analysis. Tolkien provided linguistic notes and poetic commentary. So there was this melding of their two like expertise that created this book. And this book, I think it's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I've never read it. But I used to love The Hobbit. But this is what inspired The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, was this book. I just think it's interesting that obviously this guy grew up in like the early 1900s and was into this stuff right before, again, we get to the 30s and the narrative changes with the Rockefeller stuff and the education system changing. So these guys are, you know, like, again, super into this, but then this gets turned into a piece of fiction that sort of, it's culturally important. Everyone knows Lord of the Rings, but it's just instantly viewed as fantasy now, right?
And so because I think we both agree it's crazy how when they do that, it sullies the truth too. Like it's wonderful because it's a great movie, but then whenever you talk about it, people are like, oh, you're just thinking of Lord of the Rings.
Well, it dilutes it, right?
It dilutes it. That's it. Sully, I guess.
Yeah, it's the whole revelation of the method thing with, you know, the Kabbalistic belief system, which is basically like, you know, the Christianity, and in the way we're speaking of it now is effectively just it's Kabbalism. They're taking a lot of pagan stuff. They're taking a lot of old world ritual and turning it into this monotheistic kind of thing. So, but I find it interesting that it's been diluted the way it has been. And it's the same thing that they do in movies with like, you know, like with conspiracy stuff. You know, it's all made to seem like fantasy. It's all sci-fi. It's all this and that, but it's like it comes from somewhere. And then that way, when you say, like, you draw those parallels, and if you're drawing a parallel to a piece of media, it's instantly discounted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was a really roundabout way of saying that, but
no, totally. Yeah. And talking about like the tie-ins with Christianity and this, in this, not the saga, sorry, in the book, James Curran talks about how the answers are in the Vatican. It's not the only place I've seen it, or we've heard this, right? Like in the Vatican records, actually, all the answers are contained. We're not allowed to
see them.
Not allowed to totally see it, right? We can only see the little bits that they let us allow.
Yeah.
Or we're allowed to see.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the museums, right, and Royal, like I know it's Royal Ontario Museum in Ontario, and and over throughout Canada, I believe it's different royal museums, right? And in the States, you have the Smithsonian. When you look into all of these artifacts, they all end up in the museums and then disappear. With the Smithsonian more so, like almost all of the possible Viking artifacts have been found, get shipped to the Smithsonian, and then
and just even the authentication process in general, right? It's like it's not considered an actual artifact unless the Smithsonian certifies it as such. So it's like this controlling, governing body around like who gets to decide what actually is a historical relic and what's not. Oh, they could just say whatever they want if it doesn't work with their narrative, right? And it's the same thing here. The Royal Museum. Well, gee, I wonder who who that is. You know, like it's controlled by the crown. It's their narrative. It has to fit their narrative, and if it doesn't, they can not necessarily that they'll get rid of it, but they'll shift the history and they'll just write their own history about something.
And they love showing you their version of history the way they want you to see it. Totally.
It's curated for us, and then it's passed off as this like privilege to be able to view these things. And it's like, it's neat, but you're getting to decide what, like, they're making people's minds up for them already.
I know it's not related, but we're talking with the Royal Ontario Museum and just the dinosaurs, for example, the dinosaurs that are on display there. I loved the Royal, I still love it. I still love going there, but I loved going there as a kid. And then I realized as I got older or found out that it's all like, obviously, I guess you would think about it as an adult. No, but all of the dinosaurs there are not real. Like it's based on one bone. It's one or two bones out of the whole thing, and the rest is just an interpretation or an idea. And then we're told that they, were had reptile and they fill in all the blanks for you.
They'll find a kneecap of what they think is a T-Rex, and then make a casting of it, and then build an entire model.
And this is now truth, and you must believe. Forever.
It's insanity, and it sucks because I grew up in Alberta. Drumheller is right there. I used to love going to Drumheller. Like that was. It's not like dinosaurs aren't cool. It's as far as hoaxes go. If dinosaurs are a hoax, which I kind of believe they are in the way that we know them.
I think there's a lot of lies told about it.
It's one of the cooler hoaxes. It kicks the shit out of the moon landing. But again, people get this, every kid grows up wanting to be a paleontologist, and you saw Jurassic Park was like the biggest movie when I was a kid, right? And everything, my entire world was dinosaurs for probably 3-4 years as a child. And then like growing up, and it's funny actually, when I was like 18, 19, I was on tour, and I got in an argument. No, I was older than that. I was in my maybe mid-20s, but either way, I was on tour. I got in an argument with my bass player at the time because he was very Christian, and he believed in like the New World theory. So like
that there's 6,000 years
old. So
they are real. That just haven't been there for as long as.
Well, he thought the dinosaurs were a hoax. Like he thought they were fake, and planted there kind of thing. And I remember arguing with him at the time, and now, like, I wish I could go back in time and be like, yeah, dude, you're probably right. Like, not about the 6,000 year thing, but maybe. But he was onto something.
It's like with everything, the truth is probably in there a little bit, or a bit of the truth, like a sprinkling of the truth. But it's not the whole truth, and it's only the truth they want you to know. The rest you have to go look for yourself and then make a decision.
Absolutely.
On your own, right? In my opinion. And dinosaurs are another one. I can't believe we didn't plan on talking about dinosaurs, but even this is the fact they're most likely feathered. I learned that, and in my head, I still picture a dinosaur as lizard, looking like a lizard, like a variation of some lizard or
this cold-blooded reptile thing.
They might have all looked more like chickens, or ostriches,
which is quite frankly a little scarier.
A lot louder too.
You don't think much of a chicken, but then if you were to blow that up 1,000 times,
a giant, like if a T-Rex was a chicken and like feathered and looked like a chicken, but had
with the temperament of a chicken.
even that, how do I know that there'll be people who will say how do you know the temperament of an animal from the bones anyway.
Yeah, it's they go by the cranial space and the size of the brain, and then they compare that to animals that live now.
So they assume because it had a small brain.
Yeah, that it basically didn't have a reasoning part of its brain, right?
Yeah,
like mammals do.
It wasn't mad because it had little hands, the T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean that's probably why. That's why. Yeah,
or wings, which is what it. Anyway.
Yeah, they remote viewed and saw what they turned into, and just saw himself in a bucket.
That was it.
It pissed him off.
Yeah. And even the dinosaurs being found, right? It's a history, just how in areas like Drumheller is the evidence, I believe, there shows that it was maybe one big event that.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. Well, again, like you get into the landscape of these places, like with Northern Ontario and stuff like that, where it's like, I don't know, like something carved that out, and it wasn't just like wind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
100%.
There's something more going on there, and they pull your intrigue into this dinosaur topic when it's like that's probably A, false, and B, the least interesting thing about the area, because it is this like you go to the hoodoos and it's just these weird rounded mounds. Like it's just mounds. Everything is mounds, and these big rocks and like the valleys down there, the way they're cut through and the way the like water flows through. And I don't know, man, I mean, it is windy. So I guess, yeah, there probably was a lot of it was cut by wind, but I'm just saying that there's probably so much more significance to the area than
we're led to
believe. And we're probably led astray by these other things. Right. So with the Vikings, it's like, again, like, yeah, if that would just completely rewrite our history. So we'll just like make up some stories about like, no, it was all just like French settlers and this and that, right? Like that's where it started. Don't look past that.
And for me, like I don't. They pass off the story, right, that it was Columbus that discovered the New World first. Clearly, Vikings had been here first. That's not even disputed anymore. Then they've said it was like 500 years before. I have no evidence of it. I still think they were following old oral traditions, and they were going somewhere they've always gone.
Yeah,
historically, and that there's been a connection between. The Earth's been a lot more connected than we've realized for a lot longer.
For sure,
we've been lied to about that.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah. No, there's nowhere new on the planet kind of thing. You know, there's they've been everywhere 100 times, and maybe there was just like you said, they got there and had a couple bad years, and we're just like, screw this.
Did I mention about the Ice Age before? So
no, but you did mention to me that there was like a little mini Ice Age,
and that could have been a reason too, right? There's a mini Ice Age from the 12th century until the late, I think the 1200s to the late 1800s or mid 1800s. It was a degree or two Celsius cooler on average than it was after, and before was even warmer. So the time the Vikings may have been here, may have been sort of in the Great Lakes area, it would have been a lot different of a climate. Significantly warmer, would have sounded more like how Vinland is described.
Yeah. So there's a possibility that they didn't even necessarily mean to come here. If conditions were terrible and their only option was to go down through that strait because that's everything around them was freezing.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's how there's so many more arguments to be made for how and why they would have come here than that they didn't.
And if you're going to 100%, and if you're going to survive too, like Northern Ontario, although it is cold in the winter, there's still a lot of food available. You can ice like
fresh water,
so much fish. There's not, and it's not, although cold, not as harsh as it would be on the coast of Newfoundland in the middle of winter.
No, and nothing they weren't used to.
No, and that's
right.
That
like
as well.
If there's anyone that could have survived that territory, it's them.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't going down the Caribbean first. They were here because they were used to it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another thing. It would have, a lot of the sagas, it's right. It's things can be lost in translation too. So it could have just been something as them describing Vinland as warm because to them it was warm, even though it's not what we would think of as warm. You know, people who vacation in Central America, like that to me is warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. 8-hour days. That was another thing in the sagas. That was actually a big thing. Is they talk about they made it to this place where the days, even in the winter, there was 8 hours of daylight. That's Northern Ontario.
Yeah.
That's that line is where that would be. And that, it was astonishing to them because they were used to a lot less daylight. And they were like, wow, 8 hours of daylight. Whereas to me, that still is not enough. But
yeah. Yeah, we're down to 5
there's so many reasons to think it could be true. You think it would be explored a bit more.
Yeah.
Where things get found and they're just kind of hidden.
Yeah.
Even the Wawa Rune Stone, like circling back to that, it's not easy to find a lot of information about it. The people who run the website, the archaeology team, from what I've read, will respond. And there's a Reddit thread that they actually will look at questions and answer if they can. But they've left it as they don't know who did it. They don't know for sure when it was done. I don't believe they've done testing on the actual runes, like when they could have been done either. So that like no one knows.
Yeah. See, to me, that reads as like someone told them, leave it alone. Like, don't. We're not going to destroy it.
Yeah.
But like,
which happens a lot. And another example of that in 2018, when I was talking about Baffin Island and how they found a Norse settlement. They think they found a Norse settlement there. They're pretty sure. It was a study done out of a maritime university that's escaping me. The name doesn't matter. But they were up on Baffin Island and they announced that they'd found, or they thought that they'd found this Hella land, and their funding was pulled and they got sent back. They're not allowed to go forward because of the first, I don't know. The reason given was to not upset the First Nations people were there. And the professor who was there wasn't there even to find, I don't believe she was there to actually find Hella land. She was there to investigate the Dorset, who were the people preceding the people there now, to find out what they were about. And then she found all this stuff and it proved to her that it was a Viking settlement of some sort.
Yeah.
And then they shut it down. And
yeah, that's weird. There's just too many instances of that.
Yeah.
Specifically around this topic.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious if as the polar caps melt, if more, like what will be exposed. Cause I think she found it as well from Google Maps. There's so many things nowadays. It was spotted. There was an area that she zeroed in on because of what she saw from Google Maps. And that's why she went there to do this study.
I mean, it adds validity to it to me when it's found by accident. Like, you know what I mean? Like she wasn't going there to find that. And then she found that. It's like when someone tries to disprove something from the Bible and then they end up proving it or whatever, it's like, oh, okay.
The Beardmore relic too. That's still like, I know that they say it's a hoax, but that guy, he found that it was the end of the Depression, like the Depression when he found it. And he was not a rich man. Well, he just held on to it for a while. Like,
well, that's what I was getting at, where it was like, how would he get this? I understand the story. The narrative they put in place was that he like got this home that was owned by a whatever Norwegian guy that had left them there. But again, like, why would you just leave that there?
And James Curran in the book proves that he actually in the book goes into the historical record of where James Dodd lived and proved that none of the houses he rented ever had a Norwegian or Scandinavian living there. He itemized it one by one because he didn't believe that story either.
If you said he was a CN Rail employee, right? Yeah. Like, which like that would have been employee housing most of the time anyways, right? They lived in bunkers and stuff in bunk houses. So yeah, I don't buy that.
Like some Norwegian just happened to pass by and have 1,000-year-old relics, and I'm just going to leave them here. And
and again, like anyone that's traveling at that time, you're traveling light. Yeah, like you're bringing like your bag with your stuff, and maybe if you have like some tools, it's not like, oh, okay, I'm going to bring along this
my
sword.
old Norse axe.
You never know when I'm going to need this axe or this helmet. Like,
Because that is
Just
one
doesn't make
thing
any
that's held
sense.
true the whole time in the book in 1939 when he wrote it, and now there's no dispute that those artifacts are old.
Yeah.
And are from when they said they were from. It's just a dispute as to how they got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think we cracked this one open pretty good.
I think we did.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot for people to follow up on. And if anyone out there is well versed on this stuff, or, you know.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on and talk about any of this.
Yeah.
Not debate it, just talk about it, because that's what this is, right? This is us talking about it, we're not experts. It's just what we come up with a topic, we both research it kind of independently, and then we meet here in the basement to talk about it. And yeah, that's what this is. And I wish more people would do that, to be quite honest.
Too many people just accept the mainstream narrative, and not that everything is a lie, and not that everything's a conspiracy, but.
And not that you should believe you shouldn't believe every conspiracy you read.
But people should really know, understand humanity enough by this point to understand that there's motives in place for why people do things, right? It always blows my mind when people just assume that there's, why would they do that? Well, okay, good question. Let's start actually breaking that down, because when you do that like this, why would they try to discredit the Beardmore relics? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and all those reasons seem to benefit the power structure. So I don't know. It's right. It's not rocket surgery. No.
That's almost more proof than the proof that they use.
I know. Right? I mean, that can work against you sometimes too. You gotta use discernment. It's all so nuanced, and you gotta really use discernment. That's the name of the game. But not asking questions doesn't get you anywhere.
No, so. and not deciding that something is off limit. Deciding something's off limits to questions is also a giant problem.
Yeah, it's a big red flag of mine. Yeah,
sure. This is to not be discussed. I want to discuss it more.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Anyways, I thought this was a good one. I had a lot of fun.
Me as well.
This has been good. We got a couple guests coming up. I think as we kind of near the holidays, we might take a week or two off, probably. We don't necessarily have a schedule yet for this, so
we're not schedule people.
No, still building this out. So thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for all the love lately. It's been really cool to see. It's always nice when you put effort into something and then you get something back for it. So do
the thing for the land of the high seas and the tall trees. I'm Mike.
I'm Andrew.
Have a great night.
Take it easy.